Are you spinning your wheels on low-value tasks? Do you spend more time putting out fires than planning for long-term goals? It's so easy to lose yourself and your daily momentum with little tasks that take you off focus. Here's the truth. Your time is too valuable to waste on pesky notifications, calendar invitations, and missed deadlines. Just because it all has to get done doesn't mean it needs to be done by you. That's where our friends at Belay can help. From administration to project management, a Belay executive assistant can handle it all so that you can spend your time on the tasks that matter. Because the first step to leading intentionally is reclaiming your focus. If you're looking for a practical tool to help you start leading with clearer purpose, download Belay CEO Tricia Sorrentino's free resource, the 40-Hour CEO Workweek Planning Guide. Just text the word exec to 55123 for your free copy. That's EXEC to 55123 to start accomplishing more while juggling less with Belay. Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Perry Holley, a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator and Coach.
And I'm Chris Goede, Executive President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome, and thank you for joining. I want to encourage you. We talk a lot about what are you doing with what you're hearing? What are you using with your team, with your volunteer group, with your family, for that matter, the conversations that you're hearing. And I want to encourage you to go and download the learner guide that's created. Perry puts these lessons together for us and then creates a learner guide. So go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. If you'll click on this episode, you'll be able to download that learner's guide. Well, we're going to talk a little bit today about building an extraordinary culture. We talk a little bit about culture being kind of how you think, interact. We're going to go a little bit deeper than that. And we're going to say, hey, this is what we've learned recently. And we're going to kind of share this model with you and the process. And I believe that if you follow this, in addition to what you hear from us, 100% you will build an extraordinary culture. And so it happens to be 7 steps of building a culture that we learned just a couple of weeks ago from a group that we were part of. And we're just going to share it with you today.
It was a great experience. And because we do talk so much about culture here, we know that it's probably one of the most important things a leader can establish with their team and with their organization. Just a couple of points about culture before we really get deep in this, but it's built. All cultures are built on your core values. And as Chris will always remind us about how you think, how you act, how you interact, is driven by what you believe and what you stand for and your core values. Culture exists in your absence. I think that's a lot of things leaders don't understand is you can't always be present. So whatever that culture is happening. By the way, you can't not have a culture. It's you either define one on purpose or you default to whatever's there. So you always have a culture. And it is revealed, as we said, by how people think, act, and interact. So anything to pile on or add to that?
It's also more than the words that you put on the wall or the team comes up with. Here's our
coffee mug.
Here's our core values. And this is what we believe. And this is our mission, our vision. That's awesome. And you should have that. But it is more caught than taught. And it is something that is much deeper than say, oh, well, that's our culture right there. It's that we, whatever. And so this is actually going to give you a little bit deeper and some traction on how to go about doing that. How do we live that out? So let's start. Step number 1 is to inform continually. You have to have repetition. You have to have that common language. One of the things that we try to do here is that every team meeting, both at our leadership level, well, even down into our team meetings, is that we start with, hey, what are we doing here? What's our purpose? What are we values? What are our values? And then not only that, but then how are they lived out? And I always encourage my team to saying, hey, this is kind of our culture, is our values here. And I don't want to hear about the individual that lived out this. I want to hear about the value first. I want to hear about what was the culture impact. Oh, and then by the way, hey, Perry did that, man. Thanks so much for doing that. So how are we informing continually our team to make sure that they understand what it is that we value and that is a strong part of our culture? The other thing is, I also think it's very important, not only kind of what are we informing them, but how are we doing that? And I just blended in a couple of examples there for you of the how, right? Make sure you're lifting up the values and the mission of the company first while you're informing them of things and of the culture. And so that's kind of how we go about doing it, but then also make sure they know what it is.
Yeah. And I think part of what you're informing them of as well is I've seen, like you said, it's not so hard to put up, these are our 5 core values. We put them on a wall, on a poster, on a coffee mug, whatever, and you should have that. But how are each of those core values defined? And you can't leave it to your interpretation. If you say, we value everyone. Well, what does that mean to you versus what does that mean to me? So you don't leave a core value interpretation up to the masses. You, the leadership team, you define what it means and you inform people. These are the definitions and that these are the behaviors we're going to be looking for. You want to add something?
Yes, I do. You can tell because I'm just coming up. Like here, right? Like what does that mean here? Because it does mean things that are different. Yeah. And another thing we learned was if you're putting up statements and it's not self-explanatory, then right underneath it, you better have what it means to be here.
Right.
And so I was thinking about this a little bit where, I want to go back to, we had a really good friend of ours, a great partner, and I think our all-time downloads of a guest, Brian Porta from Hendrick Automotive Group, and Mr. H, who is his organization. They, within the last maybe 5-6 years, put servant leadership as one of their core values. Right. And you know this because you coach a lot of their executives, and it's like, okay, servant leadership means, this is just as an example, it means a lot of things, but what does it mean here? And for them, being a founder-driven organization, what does it mean to Mr. H to have a servant leadership culture? Like, and so that's what Perry's talking about here is like, let's get specific on what it means here, because you can use a lot of different definitions for a lot of different words, but no, these are our core values, and this is what it looks like here.
Yeah, even the servant leadership is, what do you think it means? What do I think it means? It doesn't matter. What does Mr. H think it means?
That's right.
And that's how we define it here, and we're going to be looking for that in how you think, act, and interact is going to show up. Is it really real?
You recently developed a training course for us, Ascend to Servant Leadership, and it's an incredible training course, which we were kind of hesitant to go that route because of what people perceive that to be. Right. And in there was the core basics of this. And while that is in alignment with some of Mr. H's beliefs, it's a little bit different than our training course. And so they need to know what that is as an example for that. So,
good. Number 2, step 2, about another I word. So he said inform. Now we say involve. Involve the team in the experience. And so regular inspiration boosts morale and commitment that you involving others to have a voice in that, to let them know that you're involving them in the culture development, that they feel it, that they feel ownership in that. Does this resonate with you about getting the team committed into culture by involving them in it?
Yeah. You talk about how everyone wants to be seen, valued, and heard. And we all don't have to have our way, but as long as our voice, our opinion, especially if you have a point of view and a perspective and experience in that area, then your voice needs to be heard so that you make sure that that individual feels a part of that experience, right? They want to be invited into the conversation. And I think about it for us, like if we were going to do a corporate training or a corporate coaching program, we were going to build the content. And I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. So I'm informing everybody, but then I didn't necessarily involve you in that experience. You'd be like, I'm out. Like, what do you mean? Like says my voice. Yeah, it says, wait a minute. This podcast is mine. I'm going to. But as an example, we just need to make sure that we're involving our team in that experience. And when you do that and they understand why the decisions were made, how the decisions were made, they're part of that environment, it will drive team engagement. I just read this week that the second ever, I don't know if you saw this, it's a Gallup poll that came out, the second time ever that the global engagement level has dropped. And so I went back and I looked since they started tracking it. And sure enough, the chart kind of continued to go up, level, up. I think it was 2008 is when it dropped for the first time. Second time ever just happened. It's down to 21%.
Wow.
Now that's a global number.
Right.
Okay, globally, I think the domestic for us right here in the United States would be in the low 30s right now. But even that, I was like, second time ever. How do you do that? How do you keep that from happening? There's lots of ways. One of them is already with these two eyes we've talked about, is how are we informing them, but then how are we involving them in the experiences of the team?
Very good.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
So number 3, and if you haven't found out, we're going to go with a theme, and it does start with I. It's inspire. What do we need to be doing to inspire our team? What does that look like? And oftentimes teams and or leaders will go, hey, yeah, no, man, I want to inform you, I want to involve you, and then they kind of skip this step. So talk a little bit about, even just from your experience and what you hear in the marketplace, of how important this is as part of their culture.
It has a lot to do with being present yourself. There's so much of this culture talk and core values and things can be handed down and can be posted and but are they seeing you? Is your presence being felt? Do they know that they see you and you're the example? Are you exhibiting these core values? That's just a culture killer right away, is if you put out all these great words and then you don't live those out. So that you're inspiring just by being a part of it. I know this person we were learning this from said, that he was putting himself out in the mix. He would walk among the team. He would, as John would say, walk slowly among the crowd. He's there. He's acting out. He's picking up trash. He's showing the example about how what they're teaching from the top. He's living with them in the midst of it. You don't just pitch the culture over the wall and hope that it sticks with people. You've got to be living it and be present and be talking about it. Continue to go back to the first I, being informing continually, involving others in that, and continuing to inspire. It's this cycle, I think, that gets people going on that. It leads to step 4, which says inspect. As that, what are we inspecting? We're inspecting what we expect.
Yeah,
is generally the way that goes.
That's right.
What do you think about this phrase of you're building an extraordinary culture? Inspection?
Yeah, I think you have to do this both inspecting in the people in and around your organization, on your team, but also in the entire organization. And what does that look like? And so you talk about, hey, that's what we expect, right? That when we inspect it. Another way to say it is what gets inspected also gets respected. You were talking about just a minute ago about inspire, and I could really see this being something that could fall kind of under the inspire our team and the organization, or inspect. You were talking about the individual who is a leader of this big organization picking up trash. Well, I heard a story when we were up there, and I don't know if you were with me or not, but someone shared, they said that a trash truck that was on property.
Yeah, I heard that.
Right. And then all of a sudden he, as an individual, was walking, he's inspecting, and he said, this can't be. So he starts picking up trash. A dorm where some girls were in a dorm on property saw him doing this, and they were not only inspired to move to action, but they also were like, well, listen, that's something that we respect, right? Because we know it's going to get inspected. Came down and started helping clean up the trash. Like, that's part of that culture. That's part of the importance of inspecting it. I think the other thing too for us is that we are, from a culture standpoint, we are inspecting, is what we're doing aligned with who we are and who we want to be known for, and what are our core values of the organization. And if not, then we've got to make some correction around that. And I see a lot of leaders, to your point, maybe they don't not live it out, but maybe they delegate the culture to somebody else.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and then they just kind of disappear. But if you don't stay close to it, and you don't stay close to what matters, and you're not inspecting it in a Inspector Gadget, like negative way, like you're trying to get somebody in trouble. It's just, it is something. We're talking about culture, that everything in your organization, we're going to continually inspect. We want to continually make it better.
Well, people know you're watching. It's seriously. You have
that's
an eye
it.
on it.
That is it. Right. And so this leads us right into step number 5. We need to, it's continuous improvement, but I need to start it with an I, sorry, improve continually. And so it starts with an I. You like that? How about that?
Yeah.
And so this is something we talked a little bit about last week in the Unwows, which if you haven't listened to that, encourage you to go back. And Perry made up a word, and then we're trying to get it now in the dictionary about unwow. But we talked about this, and this is the reason. This is the reason why you inspect things, because you want things to be a little bit better, right? As simple as, why do we look at our kids' report cards? Why do we, like, what does that look like? Why do we look at our financial statements? Why do we look at our customer service index? Why do we do those things? We do them because we want to continue to inspect them to get better, not to start putting people under the microscope.
Well, kind of go back. Are you a change agent?
Yeah.
If you can't, you're going to be complacent. You got to be constantly improving, or you're going to go behind. But number 6 says increase, another I word, increase capacity. I thought this was interesting about increasing capacity. Talking about avoiding complacency. It was always like, why can't we just stop? Why can't we just keep doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
No, we're going to continually improve. We're going to increase our capacity to grow and expand. We might be increasing our capacity, increase our customer reach, might increase our market share. We might increase our capacity in every part of the business to do more, to be more, to show more. But that expansion of capacity and ability to get things done comes as this culture where people are involved and they're working for a purpose and they're inspired by the actions we're taking. This example of this person we were watching, it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
The capacity kept increasing because their culture could handle it.
Yeah. It makes me just think about how efficient are you? One of the things I was looking at going into this year was on our team. How do we continually increase the capacity, right? Well, we got to continue to improve. It's a cycle so that we become more efficient at what we're doing so that we can serve any organization, any team. So I think it increases the efficiency as well. So step number 7, and the last one here is impact. And that is what we do. We are about impacting people. So this one really resonates with me. We want to create a ton of powerful, positive change in people. We want to impact people, including our teammates, including our customers, the community, and you're all in the people business. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if you're making widgets, selling widgets. It doesn't matter if you're, whatever you're doing, you're in the people business. And that is the goal of everything that we want to do, is impact people.
Absolutely. And so I encourage these eyes are, I think they really add to a lot, but why don't you go ahead and wrap it up?
Yeah. I want to give you a little bit of a different perspective of what we just taught you. We just gave you 7 words, and I want you to now think about those 7 words, but I want you to think about it in the process of which Perry's challenging us, is saying this will create change and it'll make your culture extraordinary, right? But they all go together. And this is very strategic. And when you begin to look at these, we want to make sure that you think about them in this order in everything that you do. So I'm just going to repeat them, but I'm going to repeat them with a little bit of a different statement. He's like, hey, we want to inform them, and then we're going to involve them, and then we want to inspire them. And then it said we're going to inspect so that we can improve, so that we can increase, so that we can impact people.
That's good. Did you make it up yourself?
Oh my gosh. I am now taking
You're
over
a creative.
content. How about that? That Perry's been with me for years, and that's probably the best thing I've ever.
Somebody make a note. He's taking over the content.
It's amazing just for these 3 minutes. But when you think about this, it gives you a different perspective on this process that Perry is saying, hey, this will create a culture. And if you repeat this over and over and over again, you will create a product, your people, right, that you'll be proud of, and that people will want to be a part of what you're doing. And so I think this is something that we could all learn from. I know even myself, I'm challenged thinking of everything that we do. on my team? Am I going through this process so that I get to the end that it's impacting the people that we have the privilege to do? And the answer is not yes in all the areas, but my goal is to begin to work towards a yes.
Say one more time.
So
involved.
When I was listening to him, then I went back and I was reviewing my notes. I understood. I began to put arrows, and I listed them top to bottom, and I put arrows from one to the other, one to the other. And that's what I said. I said, you inform them, then you involve them, then you inspire them, then you inspect, so that, and then a little bit of transition there, like that, so that you can improve, so that you can increase capacity, efficiency, so that you impact people around the world.
Love it. Fantastic. Well, thanks for that extra creative action there. I'm inspired now.
That was a wow.
That is a wow. Thank you for doing that. And just want to remind our listeners that if you'd like to have the learner guide for this episode, or you learn about our offerings or other podcasts that we offer, you can do all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. You can also leave us a comment or a question there. We love hearing from you, and we're very grateful you'd spend this time with us today. That's all from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.